The creature in the far corner was not supposed to still be alive. Under the harsh white lights of the Galactic War Mount auction yard, dozens of powerful alien beasts roared, screeched, and slammed their armored bodies against containment barriers. Massive reptilian war mounts towered over soldiers. Six-legged predators snapped their jaws at handlers. Every cage held something deadly, something built for war. Every cage except one. At the very end of the yard, half hidden in shadow, stood a thin, scarred creature with dull gray hide and trembling legs. The auction announcer didn't even bother calling attention to it. Warriors from dozens of star systems walked past the enclosure without slowing down. Some laughed, some sneered. A towering armored commander from the Thrax Dominion glanced at the creature and scoffed. Who even brought that thing here? A four-armed merchant replied casually, recovered from a battlefield transport. Survived somehow. Survived, the commander barked a laugh. It looks like it lost a fight with gravity. More laughter rippled through the crowd. The creature lowered its head slightly, ribs visible beneath its skin. One of its legs carried an old burn scar. Its mane, if the thin strands along its neck could even be called that, hung unevenly. Compared to the monstrous war beast surrounding it, it looked pathetic, useless, broken. And that was exactly what everyone believed. Scrap beast, someone muttered. Probably defective, another voice said. No rider would trust that thing in battle. The creature didn't react to the insults. It simply stood there, unmoving, its long tail resting against the metal floor. But if anyone had looked closely, really closely, they might have noticed something strange. Its eyes were not dull. They were watching, carefully, silently, studying every movement in the yard. Across the auction platform, the announcer raised his voice as another war mount smashed through its barrier. Lot 32, fully armored Vraxian Crusher, battle-tested on 3 planetary campaigns. The crowd surged forward. Credits were shouted. Bids climbed higher. Massive beasts were dragged away by proud alien warriors who believed they had just bought the deadliest mount in the galaxy. No one looked toward the far corner anymore. No one except one person. Standing near the edge of the yard was a small human girl. She looked completely out of place among the towering alien warriors. Her name was Maya Carter, 17 years old, a cadet from the newly admitted Human Expeditionary Corps, and she was staring directly at the forgotten creature. Most humans in the yard were busy observing the stronger beasts. Some took notes. Others whispered nervously about which mounts were safe. But Maya wasn't watching the powerful ones. Her eyes stayed locked on the thin gray creature in the shadows. A tall reptilian handler noticed her staring and walked over. "You're looking at the wrong cage, human," he said bluntly. Maya didn't respond immediately. The creature lifted its head slightly. For a brief moment, their eyes met, and something strange happened. The animal didn't snarl. It didn't bare its teeth. Instead, it went completely still. The handler snorted. "That one," he said, jerking a claw toward the enclosure. "Battle reject. Failed synchronization tests. Nearly died during transport." He leaned closer. "Trust me, human, nobody wants that thing." Maya finally spoke. "Why?" The handler blinked. "Because it's weak." He gestured across the yard where a massive armored beast roared, shaking the entire platform. War mounts should terrify enemies. Then he pointed back toward the quiet creature. "That one barely terrifies gravity." More laughter echoed from nearby soldiers. But Maya didn't laugh. She slowly stepped closer to the enclosure. The handler frowned. "Don't bother," he warned. "It barely moves." Inside the cage, the creature raised its head a little higher. Its eyes locked onto Maya again. Not with fear, not with aggression, but with something far stranger. Recognition. Maya stopped only a few steps away from a barrier. The creature's ears twitched. The entire noisy auction yard seemed to fade for a moment. Just the girl and the broken war horse. The handler crossed his arms. "You're wasting your time, human." But Maya was still staring at the creature, studying the scars, the trembling legs, the way it stood quietly while chaos erupted everywhere else. And then she noticed something no one else had. The creature wasn't weak. It was restrained, as if every muscle in its body was holding something back. Something powerful, something dangerous. Maya whispered softly, almost to herself. You're not broken, are you? The creature's ears moved again, and for the first time since arriving in the yard, the useless warhorse took a single step forward. The moment the creature stepped forward, the nearby handler stiffened. Wait, it moved, he muttered. Several soldiers nearby turned their heads. The thin gray war beast rarely reacted to anything. Most days it stood like a statue, ignoring noise, threats, and even food until handlers forced it to eat. But now it had moved. Not much. Just one slow, careful step toward the barrier. Toward the human girl. Maya Carter didn't move. She stood calmly, her eyes locked with the creatures. Around them, the auction yard roared with activity. Another armored predator slammed against its cage, drawing cheer from alien commanders. Bidding voices rose louder. But in the quiet corner, something strange was happening. The creature took another step. The handler immediately raised a control rod. Back, he snapped. The war beast froze instantly. Not out of fear, out of discipline. The handler frowned. That's new. He looked at Maya again. You should step away, human. But Maya shook her head slightly. What's its designation? She asked. The handler glanced down at a tablet clipped to his belt. Lot 4-7, he said. Unclassified species. Captured on the outer rim transport routes. Does it have a name? War mounts don't get names, the handler replied flatly. Maya looked back at the creature. Its eyes hadn't left her. Not for a second. Why did it fail synchronization tests? She asked. The handler scoffed. Because it refused every rider. He tapped the tablet. 3 trained riders attempted bonding protocols. All failed. Did it attack them? No. Then what happened? The handler hesitated for a moment. It ignored them. Maya tilted her head. Ignored them? Completely, he said. Wouldn't respond to commands. Wouldn't react to control signals. Just stood there. The handler lowered his voice. War mounts are bred to bond with riders. If they refuse, they're worthless. He pointed across the yard where a massive 6-legged beast allowed a warrior to climb onto its armored back. Those creatures want battle. Then he gestured back to the thin gray animal. That one doesn't. Maya studied the creature again. It was still watching her. Still quiet. Still strangely aware. Or maybe, she said slowly, it just hasn't found the right rider. The handler burst out laughing. A few nearby warriors joined in. The right rider, he repeated. Human, that thing couldn't carry you across a field. Another alien soldier walked over. Curious. What's the joke? The handler pointed at Maya. She's asking about Lot 4-7. The soldier leaned over the barrier and looked at the creature. Ah, he chuckled. The broken one. He looked down at Maya. You don't want that. I didn't say I wanted it, Maya replied calmly, but her eyes were still locked on the animal. The creature slowly lowered its head. Not in defeat. In focus. It was studying her just as carefully as she studied it. The handler sighed. Listen, human. You're new to the Corps, right? Maya nodded. Then take some advice, he said. Pick something reliable. Something strong. He pointed toward the center arena where a massive armored beast roared as another rider mounted it. That's a war mount. Then he tapped the cage beside Maya. That is a transport accident waiting to happen. Maya stepped closer to the barrier. The creature's ears twitched again. You said it refused riders, she said. Yes. Did anyone try approaching without forcing control signals? The handler frowned. That's not how war mounts work. Maya didn't respond. Instead, she slowly lifted her hand. The handler's eyes widened. Stop. But Maya ignored him. She pressed her palm gently against the transparent barrier. The creature immediately leaned forward. Not aggressively. Carefully. Its long nose came within inches of the barrier, directly across from her hand. The soldiers watching went quiet. That's strange, one of them muttered. The creature exhaled slowly against the glass. Maya smiled slightly. You see, she said softly. The handler shook his head. Coincidence. But his voice sounded uncertain now. Maya looked at him. How much for it? The handler blinked. You're joking. I'm not. Human, he said firmly. Nobody buys rejects. Then it should be cheap. A few soldiers nearby laughed again. One of them called out, "Careful, girl, that thing might collapse under your weight." Another added, "Maybe she wants a pet." The handler rubbed his forehead. "You really want lot 47? Yes. You understand it failed every test? Yes. You understand it might refuse to move? Yes. And you still want it?" Maya nodded once. The handler stared at her for a long moment. Then he shrugged. "Fine." He tapped the tablet. "Lot 47. Unsuitable for combat deployment. Sold as experimental asset." He looked back at Maya. "Congratulations, human." Then he smirked slightly. "You just bought the weakest war mount in the galaxy." Laughter erupted from the nearby warriors. Maya ignored them. Her attention was on the creature. The handler deactivated the cage barrier. A warning tone beeped as a transparent wall slid open. "Go ahead," he said sarcastically. "Meet your mount." The soldiers leaned closer, eager to watch what happened next. Some expected the creature to panic. Others expected it to collapse. But the war beast didn't do either. It simply stood there, watching Maya, waiting. Maya stepped slowly into the enclosure. The entire auction yard seemed to quiet around them. 1 step, 2 steps, 3. The creature lowered its head slightly as she approached. The handler whispered to another soldier, 10 credits as it bolts." The soldier shook his head. "No, it'll ignore her like the others." Maya stopped only an arm's length away from the creature. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Maya gently reached out her hand. The creature hesitated. Its muscles tightened. The watching soldiers leaned forward. And then, the massive war beast bowed its head and pressed its forehead gently into the human girl's hand. For several seconds, the entire auction yard was silent. No one laughed. No one spoke. Dozens of alien warriors stared at the scene inside the enclosure. The so-called broken war beast stood perfectly still, its massive head lowered as it pressed gently against the small human girl's hand. The handler blinked in disbelief. That shouldn't be happening. Maya Carter didn't move. Her fingers slowly brushed along the creature's rough gray skin. The hide felt thick, like worn armor, but warm beneath the surface. The creature exhaled softly, its breath rolling across the metal floor like warm fog. Instead of flinching, Maya smiled slightly. "You're not broken," she whispered. Behind the barrier, one of the soldiers shook his head. "Impossible. It ignored trained riders." Another muttered, "Maybe humans smell different." The handler didn't laugh this time. His eyes were locked on the creature's posture. War mounts that feared humans stepped back. War mounts that threatened humans showed their teeth. But this one, it was lowering itself, submitting. That wasn't weakness. That was something far more rare. Trust. Inside the enclosure, Maya gently placed a second hand on the creature's neck. The war beast's ears flicked. Its muscles tightened for a moment. The soldiers watching leaned closer, expecting it to snap. But instead, the creature slowly knelt. The heavy thud of its body hitting the metal floor echoed through the yard. Gasps rippled across the crowd. Did it just? Kneel! The handler's jaw dropped. No rider protocol was activated, he said under his breath. Maya looked surprised too. She hadn't commanded it. She hadn't even asked. Yet the massive alien creature had lowered itself like a trained war mount offering its back to a rider. She ran her hand along its neck again. "You're full of surprises," she murmured. The creature turned its head slightly, watching her with those same intelligent eyes. And now the watchers could see it clearly. Those weren't the eyes of a dull animal. They were focused, calculating, aware. A tall armored commander from earlier stepped closer to the enclosure. "This is a trick," he said. "No," the handler replied quietly. "This thing refused 3 professional riders." He glanced at Maya. "But it chose her." The commander scoffed. "Chosen riders are myths." "Not for some species," the handler said. Inside the cage, Maya walked slowly around the creature. It didn't panic. It didn't even shift position. It simply followed her movements with its eyes. She studied the burn scars on its side, the old injuries along its legs. This didn't happen in transport. she said quietly. The handler looked surprised. How would you know? Maya gestured to the scars. These are battle wounds. The watching soldiers exchanged looks. Impossible, one said. If it survived battles, why would it fail synchronization? Maya stopped beside the creature's shoulder, because it wasn't refusing riders. She rested her hand on its neck again. It was waiting. The handler frowned. For what? Maya looked up. For someone who wouldn't try to control it. The soldiers watching shook their heads. That's ridiculous. War mounts are controlled. That's how the system works. But inside the enclosure, the creature suddenly stood, in one smooth, powerful motion. The movement was so fast that Maya blinked in surprise. Moments ago it had looked weak. Now it moved with the quiet strength of a predator. The soldiers murmured uneasily. That didn't look weak. The handler narrowed his eyes. Move, he told Maya carefully. Let's see if it follows. Maya stepped forward. The creature followed immediately, not hesitantly, not slowly, perfectly, step for step. The handler's grip tightened on his control rod. That's full synchronization. One of the soldiers frowned. But there's no control signal. No neural link either. Another added. The handler whispered under his breath. Then it's voluntary. The creature suddenly lifted its head. Its ears flicked toward the open training arena nearby. In the distance, one of the massive armored war mounts roared, shaking the ground. Most animals in the yard reacted to the noise. This one didn't panic. Instead, its muscles tensed. Not in fear, in readiness. Maya noticed immediately. You want to run, don't you? The creature's tail flicked once. The handler stepped forward quickly. No. Maya looked back. Why not? Because if that thing panics in the arena, it could kill someone. But the creature wasn't panicking. It was staring toward the open space like a soldier looking at a battlefield. The handler hesitated, then sighed. Fine. He gestured toward the gate leading to the empty training field. Let's prove something. The soldiers nearby leaned forward eagerly. If it collapses, the handler said, we end the experiment. Maya nodded. The gate opened with a loud metallic slide. The wide training arena stretched out ahead of them. The creature stepped forward first. Its movements were smooth now, balanced. Nothing like the trembling animal everyone had mocked earlier. Maya walked beside it. The soldiers gathered along the observation railing. Place your bets, someone muttered. It'll trip in 10 seconds. 5, 3. But the creature didn't trip. It walked calmly into the center of the arena. Then it stopped, its head lifted, its body tensed. And for the first time, the broken alien war horse spread the massive armor plates along its spine. The watching soldiers froze. What is that? The handler's voice dropped to a whisper. Those aren't injuries. The plates along the creature's back slowly locked into place like overlapping shields. Hidden weapons of living armor. A design none of them had seen before. The handler stayed in disbelief. That's not a transport species. One of the commanders leaned forward. Then what is it? The creature lowered its head slightly. Its muscles rippled with controlled power. And for the first time since arriving at the auction yard, the supposedly weak war mount let out a deep, thunderous battle cry. The sound shook the entire arena. The handler's face went pale. Oh no. One of the soldiers swallowed nervously. What? The handler didn't take his eyes off the creature. That, he whispered, is a war beast. The roar of the war beast echoed across the training arena. Every soldier along the observation rail froze. Moments ago they had been laughing. Now no one was laughing. The creature stood in the center of the arena, its massive body no longer trembling or weak. The armored plates along its spine had fully expanded, locking together like living shields. What once looked like scars and damaged hide now formed a natural layer of battle armor. The handler slowly lowered his control rod. I've never seen anything like this. Maya stood beside the creature, her hand still resting lightly against its neck. Despite the thunderous roar, the animal remained calm near her, its breathing steady. One of the alien commanders leaned over the railing. That's not a transport animal, he said quietly. No, the handler replied. Another soldier asked nervously. Then why did it look so weak before? The handler didn't answer immediately. He watched the creature carefully. Then realization dawned on his face. It wasn't weak. He exhaled slowly. It was conserving energy. Across the arena, the massive gates leading to the combat testing field suddenly shook. A loud warning alarm blared through the entire facility. Woo, woo, woo. Red lights flashed along the walls. The soldiers stiffened. What now? Someone groaned. A voice crackled through the overhead speakers. Security alert. Containment breach in Sector 4. Repeat, containment breach. The handler's eyes widened. Sector 4. One of the guards cursed. That's a predator holding cells. Before anyone could react, the far arena gate exploded inward with a deafening crash. Metal fragments flew across the floor. Something massive stepped through the destroyed doorway. The watching soldiers immediately backed away from the railing. By the stars! The creature that entered the arena was enormous. A towering alien predator with 4 muscular legs and jagged bone spikes running along its back. Its mouth opened wide, revealing rows of serrated teeth designed to rip through armor. One of the commanders recognized it instantly. A craft bloodmaw. Panic spread through the observation deck. That thing escaped containment. Evacuate the arena. Guards rushed toward emergency exits. But inside the arena, Maya hadn't moved. The bloodmaw lowered its massive head and sniffed the air. Then its glowing red eyes locked onto her. The soldiers watching felt their stomachs drop. Oh no! The handler slammed his fist against the railing. Human, get out of there! Maya heard him, but before she could move, the bloodmaw let out a deafening roar and charged. The ground shook beneath its thunderous steps. The watching soldiers shouted in panic. It's going to tear her apart. Someone opened the gate. But the safety system had already locked down. The arena doors wouldn't open during a breach. The bloodmaw closed the distance rapidly. 30 meters. 20. 10. And then the gray war beast stepped forward. Not slowly, not cautiously, but with explosive speed. The movement stunned everyone watching. One moment the creature stood calmly beside Maya. The next it launched itself across the arena like a living missile. Its armor plate snapped tighter along its body as it accelerated. The bloodmaw barely had time to react. The two creatures collided with a thunderous impact that echoed through the facility. The bloodmaw staggered backward with a shocked roar. The watching soldiers stayed in disbelief. That thing just tackled a bloodmaw. The gray war beast landed gracefully between Maya and the predator. Its body lowered into a defensive stance. Protective, focused, deadly. The bloodmaw snarled angrily and circled its new opponent. Its bone spikes rattled as it prepared to strike again. Human, the handler shouted. Run now. But Maya stayed where she was. She wasn't afraid, because the creature standing in front of her hadn't taken its eyes off the bloodmaw, not even for a second. The predator lunged again, jaws snapping, but the war beast moved faster. With a sudden burst of speed, it dodged the attack and slammed its armored shoulder into the bloodmaw's ribs. The larger creature crashed sideways across the arena floor. Gasps erupted from the soldiers watching above. That speed! That power! The bloodmaw scrambled to its feet, furious now. It roared and charged again. But this time the gray war beast didn't dodge. It met the charge head-on. At the last second, it reared upward. Its front leg slammed down onto the bloodmaw's skull with crushing force. The impact echoed like thunder. The predator collapsed onto the metal floor with a stunned howl. The arena fell silent. The bloodmaw struggled weakly for a moment. Then it stopped moving. The entire facility was quiet. Dozens of alien warriors stared down at the scene in disbelief. The creature they had mocked, the creature they had called weak, was now standing over one of the most dangerous predators in the sector. Victorious, the gray war beast slowly turned its head, not toward the fallen enemy, but toward Maya. Its armor plate slowly folded back into place along its spine. The handler whispered in awe. That creature protected her. One of the commanders shook his head. No. His voice was quiet but certain. It fought for her. Maya stepped forward carefully. The war beast lowered its head again as she approached. Just like before. Just like the first moment in the auction yard. She placed her hand gently against its forehead. "Good job," she whispered. The soldiers watching above stood in stunned silence. The same warriors who had laughed earlier now looked down at the arena with something very different in their eyes. Respect and fear, because they had just witnessed something the galaxy rarely saw. A true war beast, and a rider it had chosen. One of the commanders spoke quietly. The human didn't pick that creature. He nodded toward Maya and the animal standing beside her. That creature picked the human. The aftermath of the arena battle spread faster than fire through dry brush. By the next morning, the news of Lot 47 and its human rider had reached every corner of the galactic war mount core. What had begun as laughter and mockery turned into whispers of awe, and whispers quickly became legends. Across the galaxy, warriors who had once scorned the broken warhorse now found themselves staring at holographic feeds showing a small human girl calmly standing beside a massive alien predator she had tamed and protected. They had seen the creature's intelligence, its strength, and its loyalty, and realized that every tale of weakness had been a lie, or was a misunderstanding of something far more powerful. Maya Carter walked through the now-empty auction yard, the gray war beast following silently at her side. Where before there had been laughter, there was only silence, and, in some corners, respect. The handler who had sold her the creature caught up to her. His eyes were wide, disbelief still etched into every line of his face. You survived. You tamed it," he said. Maya didn't answer immediately. She looked down at the creature's intelligent eyes and placed a hand on its armored neck. "It didn't need taming," she said softly. "It only needed to trust someone who didn't see it as broken." The handler swallowed hard. Around them, other alien warriors were already whispering to one another, realizing something fundamental. Strength wasn't always obvious, and power, when true, could hide in plain sight. Months later, the story had grown. Every academy, every training field, every war mount evaluation room in the galaxy knew the tale of the human who chose the weakest warhorse, and the warhorse who chose her in return. Holograms of the battle played repeatedly, showing the gray beast striking down the Bloodmaw, protecting Maya with precision and loyalty. Some even said the creature's battle armor had shifted and responded to her movements, as if it had learned from her touch, predicting what she needed before she knew herself. A legend was born, not just of a war mount, but of a bond between human and alien beast. The mocking voices faded into history. Commands that once doubted humans now paused before judging them. Every warrior learned that sometimes the smallest, quietest figure could awaken power that even the galaxy's mightiest beast could not ignore. And in quiet corners of barracks and training grounds, soldiers told the story to cadets, leaning closer in whispers. Never underestimate the choices of a human girl. Never doubt the creature she chooses, because together they can change everything. Maya Carter didn't seek fame or glory. She only walked beside her war beast, quietly as they prepared for the battles that were still to come. But the galaxy had already begun to speak her name, and Lot 47, once abandoned and mocked, had become a symbol of something far greater than anyone could have imagined, the true power of trust, courage, and an unbreakable bond. The legend had only just begun.